The following is an excerpt from the book, Creepy Chronicles, a collection of scary short stories, Volume 1, by Grayson Todd. It is now available on Amazon. This story is entitled Whiskers in the Dark. If you like this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on all news relating to Grayson Todd. And now, to the story. Enjoy. In the heart of a bustling city, hidden in a corner of an aging apartment complex, there resided a man by the name of Jackson and his kitten, Lola. Their dwelling, a confined space with wallpaper that was slowly peeling away and a never-ending draft, was all that Jackson could afford. Yet with all its imperfections, it was home, a haven for Jackson and Lola, a refuge against the world. Jackson's life wasn't always shadowed by the struggle of making ends meet. He was once a promising artist, his days filled with color and creativity, but as the city grew more expensive and the gigs dried up, Jackson found himself trapped in a cycle of late rent notices and dwindling hope. Lola, a small calico kitten with curious eyes, was his only solace. She had wandered into his life on a particularly dreary day and decided to stay, becoming his silent partner in navigating the storms of life. The solution to his financial woes seemed simple enough: get a roommate. But Jackson's luck, as he would soon discover, had a twisted sense of humor. His first roommate, Aaron, vanished without a trace after just a month. The police had questions, but no leads. Then came Bella, whose laughter filled the apartment for a brief 2 weeks before she too disappeared into the night. Whispers began to spread among the neighbors, but Jackson shrugged them off. Bad luck, he told himself, nothing more. Enter Casey, a young writer with a spark in her eyes that reminded Jackson of dreams he once had. She moved in with a suitcase and stories of cities she'd wandered. Lola took to her immediately, a rare sign of approval. For a few days the apartment felt alive again, brimming with potential and whispered secrets. But Casey hadn't been seen in days. At first, Jackson assumed she was caught up in her writing, lost in the world she spun from her imagination. But as the silence stretched on, a cold dread began to take root in his heart. He questioned Lola with a half-hearted joke. "You haven't seen where Casey went, have you?" Lola's only response was to stare at him with her deep, knowing eyes before turning away, a silent sentinel guarding secrets Jackson couldn't fathom. Lola's behavior had grown increasingly peculiar since Casey's disappearance. She insisted on her litter box being cleaned multiple times a day, an odd request for such a low-maintenance companion. Frustrated and strapped for time, Jackson found himself wrestling with the litter box one evening, the last of his patience wearing thin. With no trash bags left and a growing sense of urgency, Jackson decided to take the entire litter box down to the dumpster. The night air was cool against his skin, a welcome relief from the stifling apartment. He stumbled, cursing under his breath as the contents of the litter box scattered across the ground. "Hey, watch where you're dumping that!" The voice came from a shadowed figure nearby, a homeless man who called the alley home. Jackson apologized, but the man's attention was already fixed on something among the debris. "What the?" Jackson followed his gaze and felt the blood drain from his face. Among the clumps of litter were unmistakably human fingers, pale and lifeless. The scream that tore from Jackson's throat was primal, a sound of pure terror. The homeless man, wide-eyed, flagged down a passing police car, pointing at the gruesome discovery. The investigation was swift. The fingers were identified as belonging to Casey. Jackson was arrested, the evidence damning. He protested his innocence, but the whispers turned into accusations, his pleas falling on deaf ears. In the chaos, Lola was forgotten, left to wander the now empty apartment. It was only when an officer returned to collect more evidence that the truth began to unravel. Lola sat calmly amidst the turmoil, her eyes following every move. As the officer moved to pet her, Lola nimbly avoided his touch, darting towards the open window. The officer, following a hunch, examined Lola's litter box, now a central piece of evidence. Buried beneath the surface, he found traces of what could only be described as evidence of a predator, not a pet. The realization dawned slowly, a horrific understanding that twisted the narrative into something unimaginable. Jackson, now a suspect behind bars, was confronted with the truth. Lola, his silent, comforting companion, harbored secrets far darker than he could ever have imagined. She was not just a cat, but something else, a creature that defied explanation, disposing of roommates with an efficiency that chilled the blood. Jackson was released, and his name cleared, but his life forever changed. The apartment stood empty, a silent witness to the mysteries that had unfolded within its walls. Lola was never seen again. her legacy a whispered tale among the residents of the complex, a chilling reminder of the mysteries that lurk in the shadows. And Jackson, forever marked by the events, wandered the city with haunted eyes, a man who had glimpsed the darkness and survived, forever wary of the whiskers in the dark. I hope you enjoyed that excerpt from Creepy Chronicles, a collection of scary short stories, Volume 1. If you would like to read the entire book full of other short scary stories like this one, please check out the link in the description below.